Can I ask you about the lack of people being painted? There is just one moment in your film, and I'm just wondering how we can discuss this, where it appears to be a woman.
The lower part of a woman, yes.
And a bull.
A bison.
And a bison.
Somehow embracing the body of the...
Right.
Yes.
What's going on there?
We do not know. We have no idea, but it's very, very interesting that an old motive which goes back into time immemorial starts to come back up in culture through, let's say, an artist like Picasso, who did the bull and the female, le Minotaur, the Minotaur and the female. And, of course, Picasso had no knowledge of Chauvet Cave. It's just, and, of course, strange because there's basically no human depiction. However, not too far away at the Swabian Jura in southwestern Germany, there were findings in some caves of tiny little statuettes, mostly Venuses. The Venus of Hohlefels, and it's much wilder than Baywatch, if you look at it.
That's a good way of putting it. Did your experts and your archaeologists have any clue as to why they painted? I mean, did they paint for the joy of it? Did they paint just the way we would paint? Was it part of a religious ceremony or what?
Well, there's, of course, speculation that it was part of religious ceremonies, but we do not know. And you see, that was always the explanation and always interpretation of it. However, there is a new school of younger archaeologists who just state, this is what we see, we can only speculate in this or that direction, but ultimately we do not know. And I think it's a very healthy attitude. And you can approach the meaning of things by looking into Stone Age cultures that expired very recently, like in Australia, Aborigines. Australian Aborigines who lived a Stone Age existence until British prison colonies were established in Australia. And they explain cave paintings in a very strange way and a very mythical way that, for example, an Aborigine told ethnographer that he was not painting, he was not retouching an age-old painting, but the hand of a spirit was the agent who did it. So we can speculate that in a Stone Age culture like last remaining traces within Australian Aborigines may have a familiar connotation to what happened 32,000 years ago. Again, we do not know.
You talk about the pictures being animated by the movement of a flame, that somebody would be in the cave, it would be dark,
yes.
You'd hold the flame, it would flicker, it would lend a sense of movement.
Yeah.
Do you see any connection between that and the act of making films, which is, of course, just casting shadows upon a wall?
In a way, yes, and this is why I couldn't resist to show Fred Astaire in swing time dancing with three of his own shadows, and all of a sudden the shadows do something mischievous and they dance differently and he has to catch up with it. This, by the way, is the most quintessential sequence. For me, this is cinema. Nothing has ever been as ingenious as this Fred Astaire moment in swing time, and I couldn't resist but quoting it, because the scientists discuss there are fires on the we still have some remains of charcoal, but so far laid back from the paintings that apparently human beings were in front of the fires looking at the images. They must have cast their shadows on the walls. Yeah. So it's all speculation, and it's beautiful that we can speculate.
But it's interesting, Werner, when you say that's quintessential cinema, you're talking about an image with no dialogue, it's music, it's black and white, it's shadow play, and you're saying that's quintessential cinema.
There's nothing more quintessential than that one.
I would agree with you. And then when you describe Cave of Forgotten Dreams, you say the interesting thing is people don't talk about it as cinema, they talk about it as being in the cave. I think maybe that's the point, and that's maybe also encapsulates my thing about 3D. I don't know what it is, but it's not cinema.
You have to you have to step back from being a filmmaker. You are something else there. It's just get this awe, this incredible sensation to be in this cave. Just get it across to an audience. That's all I had to do.
So it's not a film, it's something else.
Forget about movie, forget about me being a director. Just forget it. I step away, I step aside, and the cave is coming at you.
Werner, I haven't met you before. I know you, Mark. You know Mark very well, and he's interviewed you many times. And sometimes there have been unforeseen consequences. And while you were filming with Mark, as he's told us a number of times, you were shot.
Yes, but that was only an arabesque.
It was only a what?
An arabesque. It was just a little side event, so it's just a little fun moment. Let's face it.
It was a little fun moment.
Exactly. Fun moment, but
you wasn't significantly shocked.
No, it was insignificant. Come on, let's face it. It was insignificant because I was not really badly wounded. Period. That was
someone tried to.
Can I just be clear? You had a hole that went through your clothing into your abdomen, and you were bleeding out of it. And
so what?
Exactly. So what? And that's the thing that stays with me, Werner, is that I jumped, and you went, and you looked down. You went. Someone is shooting at us. We should probably leave.
Has that ever happened since?
No, but I have been shot at much more seriously before. So I know what it means to be shot at with real big live ammunition, like a Kalashnikov. It's unpleasant.
So just the fact that it was just a pellet.
I don't know what it was. Maybe a small caliber or some sort of a pellet. Doesn't really matter. It's of no consequence.
But if someone was wishing you, maybe they were trying to shoot Mark.
Yeah, that's the popular theory is they weren't aiming at him. They were aiming at me. They just weren't very good shots.
Yes, I should have you around all the time when I'm going into dangerous areas.
Thanks, Werner. I'll take the flak for you. Thanks,
Werner. Take the intellectually warped one. Werner, thank you very much indeed. It's been great to meet you. Thank you very much indeed for coming in for the show today.
It was a pleasure.
Some emails on Werner Herzog. Luke Alford in Stockport. I went to see one of the special showings of Cave of Forgotten Dreams on Tuesday. It was to be followed by a live Q&A with Mr. Herzog broadcast via satellite. To my disgust, the film was preceded by a screen card asking us to submit questions via Twitter. This request was repeated just before the start by the nice man from The Guardian who introduced the film live from London.
Jason Solomon.
As you would hope, some of the questions would be about the film we were about to see. We were being encouraged to tweet during the show. I hope the good doctor gives Picture House Entertainment the thorough dressing down they deserve for such a flagrant breach of the code. The film itself was wonderful, and we now finally know how to make good use of 3D. A slow-moving camera. Maybe documentary is natural home for 3D.
Well, a couple of things to say. I mean, as I said there, I really like the film. I think it's more immersive in 2D than 3D. I would like to say that, it's great with Herzog because you can tell him what you think and he'll fight his corner. He did say afterwards, and you can verify this, that we continued this conversation after we'd finished the interview. And I said, look, I have seen it in both versions. This is how I feel about it. And then he sort of paused. He said, well, all right, from you, I'll accept it, on the basis that he knew that I wasn't going to be won over. The other thing is...
And he also knew you're intellectually warped.
Oh, intellectually warped was exactly the phrase. The other thing is, many people have tweeted saying, am I now going to eat my shoe? To be clear about this, when I was at the Bristol Watershed, I said I'll eat my shoe if David Lynch makes a 3D movie. And since then I've said that since Lynch and Herzog are working together, it alarmed me that Herzog had done it, because if Herzog's done it, that means Lynch may well do it. But the deal was, if David Lynch makes a 3D movie, I will eat my shoe. And I promise you, I will do this. I said it in public, I've said it again on the radio. If David Lynch makes a 3D movie and they show it at the Bristol Watershed, I will go there, and before a screening, I will physically eat my shoe.
Paul on this says, what a glorious oral treat, Werner Herzog in conversation with Simon and Mark. Beautifully done by all the team. Thanks for not constantly interjecting, but for letting him expound on his thoughts. We, the listeners, sit as if interloping on a private conversation, and how illuminating and enjoyable it is.
Should apologise for my sounding like that, because I lost my voice earlier on in the week, and we did that on Tuesday, at which point I was, what do they call it, strep throat in America.
Simon Anderson saying, you sounded like a cross between Rod Stewart and the Cookie Monster.
Cookie.
Pardon?
Cookie. I want cookie.
I think that's your best impression so far.
Was it? Okay, fine.